Hi, my name is Sarah Fletcher, and today I'm going to inform you on how to organize a successful community garden in your city or town. Like anything you do in life, you want it to be successful, right? So, if you have an interest in growing your own fruits, vegetables, herbs, and even flowers, but your backyard might not have enough space or for whatever reason, you should hear me out. I'm going to inform you of the crucial steps that go into organizing a community garden, as well as how to maintain that success, and then the challenges that might present themselves with your community garden. If you don't know much about community gardens, or if you stumbled across this speech, you should be aware that a community garden is one piece of land which is gardened collectively by a group of people from your community. When planning a community garden that is built for success, you should know which type of community garden will work best in your city or town for the people that are involved in it. Community gardens come in many different shapes and forms. To elaborate on this, there are youth and school gardens, food pantry gardens, demonstration gardens, and then there are the traditional community garden that we are going to be focusing on today because of time purposes. Moving forward, you need to get the people in your community involved. This is probably the most pivotal factor in the success or failure of your garden. If you don't have people interested, then your garden can't play the role of serving its community like it's supposed to. A way of doing this could be involving your neighbors by surveying them to see if they would like to participate or not. And then you should make sure to invite those people who are interested in the process of organizing the garden, because after all, it's supposed to be collective thoughts and expectations, and it cannot thrive off just one individual's thoughts and expectations. Now, what do you do with these thoughts and expectations? You form a garden club. This will be more crucial in maintaining your garden, community garden, but it's also important in the organization of your community garden. While the community garden should focus on establishing where the location of the garden should be and how to obtain that piece of land, you should look for the right place of land for your garden. There are some factors to consider when doing this. The vacant lot should get enough sunlight each day. It should get about 8 to 10 hours. That's the most important. It should be relatively flat, and it should be easily accessible by everyone in your community, or at least those who say that they're interested in your demographic, by most, if not all, members of your community. Not considering these factors could cause potential failure of your community garden. Once you are able to find a good location that your garden club agrees on, you need to obtain permission from the person that owns that land, or if it's the city that owns that land. You should explain the importance and the value of the community garden that will cause greatness for your community, whether it be serving food to the people who don't always have access to it, or just, allowing people to get together as a community. Before you go into negotiating a lease, you need to find out if the lot has access to water. You can do this by contacting the city's water provider department and asking them to do a so-called site investigation. As far as budgeting goes, you should follow through with a lot location if there has been a water site on there previously, so you can avoid cost of having to do a new irrigation system. Along with water, you should have the soil tested for healthy fertility, pH, and non-presence of heavy metals. Healthy soil means success for the community garden, and you can do this by contacting a private lab. So, once the site location is obtainable, now it's time to prepare and negotiate the lease. You should try to obtain 3 years or longer, and you should agree on all terms. I recommend you purchase liability insurance for your protection and for the owner's protection. And you should be prepared to sign waivers holding the club responsible for anything that could go wrong at the community garden. This shouldn't scare you. These steps are the legal way to obtain land and for your community garden's sake. Once you have obtained your land and worked out the legality terms, you can now move on to the more exciting steps. It is time for your garden club to design and build the community garden. You will need to draw out a map so that you can visualize the layout of the garden. You need to figure out how many plots to make based on the people interested in participating. You don't want to make too many, because then you'll have a bunch of empty lots that will serve no purpose. The design of the community garden should include an irrigation system, a fence that will keep people from acts of vandalism or theft, a tool shed to keep all materials and garden tools safe, a bench or a picnic table, for gardeners to relax or get out of the sun, and an area that kids will be able to play in. You want the community garden to be as family-oriented as possible since it's serving your community, and a lot of people in your community are families. You should also include in your design a sign that has the garden's name, sponsors, and a contact number for any questions that a person might have upon gardening there. All the elements of your design will aid in the success of your community garden. But a key factor is not to overspend, so as a garden club, you should create a garden budget. A community garden can cost anywhere up to $5,000, so you should highly consider asking for sponsorship and donations. And trust me, your businesses and your community will love to participate in this. Not only will this save pocket money for the community garden, but will also have local businesses involved. Having local businesses involved will ensure participation in the garden because, again, with no participation, the garden probably will fail. Now you can work on making the design a reality. And from this step, you will officially have organized a community garden. Yes, the creation was successful, but now how do you maintain that success? Maintaining the community garden for success is just as important as the creation. This is where the community garden club comes in play. The garden club will ensure that there is vested interest in the community garden always by establishing rules, accepting and reviewing garden applications, making the plot assignments, and establishing and collecting garden dues, as well as paying the water bill and resolving any conflict that might present themselves. Without the garden club and these functions, the success of your garden is just not possible. Maintaining the community garden also means getting and keeping the excitement about the community garden. This might mean having a grand opening and then holding maybe a barbecue every year that the community garden exists to keep people interested and to make it about the community, bringing people together so that you can obtain the excitement about growing your own vegetables, fruits, herbs, and flowers. But with that being said, there might be some challenges that present themselves along the way of organizing or along the way of maintaining your garden. With that being said, here are some things to pay attention to. The most common challenge that you might come across is vandalism and theft, and you should never take this personally. Most of the time, it's teenagers who don't know the consequences to their actions and don't know the harm that they are causing. You shouldn't become discouraged, but have a local community officer check the location a few times so that you can ensure the safety of it. Clean up as soon as possible and, put out the word that this is not okay. Another challenge that might present itself is a compost system. While this is crucial, you should really teach the people of your community garden how to use it so that it doesn't pile up. You don't want the community garden to look trashy, not trashy, but to build up trash and then become an eyesore for your community, because then people will not want to participate in it. Which also brings me to the fact that you may face the problem of weeds, and you should stay on top of that issue. Although there are challenges that you may face, if you are aware of them, then you will know how to tackle the issue right away, aiding in the success of your community garden. So now we have discussed the important steps and parts that go into organizing, maintaining, and knowing the challenges you may face with your garden. If you are still interested in starting a community garden in your city and town, this was the right place to visit on how to do it successfully. With that being said, good luck on the process of organizing a community garden, and I hope that these guidelines will contribute to the success of your community garden. Thank you. Have a good day.